Welcome to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and restorative wellness practitioner on a mission to change the way that we support women with endometriosis. Endo is a full-body disease that impacts your mind, body, and spirit in countless ways that aren't often addressed the way that women truly deserve. We are here to talk about all of it. Please keep in mind that the content of this show has been created for educational purposes only and should never be used as a replacement for medical diagnosis or treatment. Hey, my friend, and welcome back to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. I hope that you are all doing well as we head into the fall season. My fall season so far has been a little unfall-like. Of course, I'm recording this a few weeks before you're going to hear it, but I'm in California, Southern California, and we have had quite the heat wave at the beginning of September. In my area, it was up to 115 degrees a couple of days, and I'm not in the desert, so this is not typical for us. It was pretty nuts, and on the tail end of that crazy heat wave that we had, there were so many fires that started because of the heat and the dryness and everything. So it's been a lot. Things are finally settling down, and I'm now looking forward to getting to be cozy and warm and wear the sweaters and socks and fires and hot cup of tea and all the things. So I hope that you're getting to enjoy that shift of the seasons into fall. Now, I love that I am recording this episode at this time of year because the changing of the seasons around us very much relates to what we're going to talk about today. Because where seasons are cyclical, right, we know that we're going to go from winter into spring, into summer, into fall. The same thing happens with our cycles. In fact, our cycles can kind of relate back to the seasons of the year, and I'm going to tie that in today so you can kind of see the connection. And I think this is something that's really important to talk about, whether you're an endo warrior or not, because at the end of the day, we really do live in a man's world. That always reminds me of that song. We're in a man's world. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to sing that on the podcast. I'm not a singer, so deepest apologies for that. I'll leave the singing to the professionals and get back to your regularly scheduled programming on the podcast here. Anyway, the reason I mention this is not intended to be a huge feminist podcast or anything, but I should mention that men's hormones, which the main hormone for men is testosterone, it fluctuates throughout a day, a 24-hour period, and that's it. It's pretty straightforward. Whereas women have huge changes and fluctuations throughout the course of the month, throughout the course of your cycle. And the way that our society, our world is set up is to kind of live in that man's world where we just go big every single day. We work, most of us have jobs of some kind from morning until evening and have the evening time to wind down. Some of you may have different schedules. And we've really kind of been taught to disregard the changes and fluctuations that are happening in our own bodies, just to go live your life every single day, go hustle, go do your thing. And there's even a stigma that you're considered weak if you need downtime during the days that you are on your period. And I know I've talked to so many endo warriors, and I know that that's a struggle for so many people. I know it's been a struggle for myself. I used to think that. I remember even back in middle school, high school, thinking that if I had to miss a day of school, or at the time I was really into ballet, I was a classical ballet dancer. If I had to miss a day of class because of my period, I thought I would feel super guilty and I would feel just like a weakling because you should be able to do all the things while you're on your period. So I totally get that. That was my story 100%. I think it's something that's kind of painted within our society. So today, what I would like to do is paint a different picture. What if instead we learn to honor the phases of our menstrual cycles, to actually tune in to what we are created to be? What if those hormone fluctuations that happen throughout the month, what if that's not something that needs to be controlled, but rather it's something to be honored for the incredible, intricate work that they do in our bodies? Because really, the dance that hormones play throughout our bodies on a day-to-day basis, week to week, month to month, is pretty incredible. And all the things that have to happen just for us to ovulate, it's pretty incredible. And the fact that we're really taught to suppress the hormones and control the hormones, all those things, those conversations that go on around us, I think is something that maybe we need to start to change our tune, our conversation around. So what we're going to do today is take a look at each of the phases of your menstrual cycle, and along the way, we will break down how you can best support your body and your hormones during that phase. And we'll kind of look at all the things, including diet, lifestyle, all the things. So let's dig in. We're going to start off with the follicular phase, and that's the phase that begins at the end of bleeding, the end of your period, up through ovulation, and can last anywhere from 7 to 21 days. And I do think that that's an important thing to note also as we're talking about this stuff. I know when I was taught back in school, I was taught that your menstrual cycle is 28 days long in total, and you ovulate on day 14, and that's really not been true in my life, neither of those things. I don't ovulate on day 14. I don't have a 28-day cycle. And I thought for so many years that something was wrong. I mean, I guess in a way there was because I had endometriosis. But even still, even as I've come a long way in my health and my cycles have become so much more consistent and regular than they once were, I still don't follow that perfect textbook schedule. So I think that that's important to know, that that can be a little bit different for everybody and that that's okay. We're not all the same person. Now, I mentioned before that seasons, that like the ones we're experiencing the change of, can kind of relate to the seasons of our menstrual cycle. So our follicular phase is kind of like springtime. Things are starting to bloom, things are starting to happen, and what's happening here is that the follicles in your ovaries are developing and maturing leading up to ovulation. So each cycle, there are many follicles that actually develop within your ovaries, and one of them ends up becoming dominant and releases the egg for ovulation. So that's kind of what we're preparing for during that follicular phase. Estrogen is the prominent hormone here, which is helping to build up the uterine lining to prepare for pregnancy. And then you also have FSH, which is follicular stimulating hormone, which causes those follicles to begin to grow and develop. Now, this time, that follicular phase tends to be a time of higher energy. You may be more productive during that time. You might feel more social, feeling more connected with the people around you. You might be more energetic. And that's where, when it comes to movement that you're doing, we're going to talk about a few different things. When it comes to movement, it might be a time that you're feeling up to doing something a little more energetic and maybe a little more sociable, going to the gym, taking a dance class, taking a fitness class, doing a little workout. Maybe you start a little bit lighter right after your period finishes and kind of build up as you go along. One thing I also wanted to introduce here as we're having this conversation is a concept called seed cycling. Now, this is not something to live or die by. It's fun information. It's something to play around with a little bit. So basically what this is there's different types of seeds that can be helpful to support different parts of your menstrual cycle. So for the follicular phase, pumpkin and flax seeds are the types of seeds that can be really supportive. And you don't need tons, right? 1 or 2 tablespoons per day can be helpful. The pumpkin seeds have zinc, which can support testosterone. And I know testosterone might not be top of mind for women, but we do have testosterone as well. And that's actually needed for having a healthy libido, for having energy, for even trying to build muscle and things like that. Pumpkin seeds also are rich in antioxidants, which are helpful for your ovaries and your eggs. And then we have flax seeds. Flax seeds contain lignans that have estrogen supportive and protective benefits and can help improve the estrogen-progesterone ratio. So, pumpkin and flax seeds. Now, you do want, with the flax seeds, my recommendation there is to buy them whole and then grind them yourself. You can find ground flaxseed in stores, but flax is a very delicate omega-3 fat. It's wonderful for you, but it also can be damaged very easily. So that's why I recommend grinding it yourself. You can throw it in a coffee grinder or maybe a food processor or something and grind them yourself. Or if you're going to add them to something like a smoothie, that's perfect because they'll get ground up along the way. You also don't want to cook flax seeds because, again, that delicate oil can't be heated. So what do you do with these seeds? You can do things like add them to smoothies, yogurt, salads, energy balls. I really like to make those little energy balls sometimes. That's a good way to get in these different types of seeds as well. There's some additional nutrients that are really supportive during this time, including nettle. I really like to make nettle leaf tea or infusions. Contains a lot of trace minerals that are great for hormone creation and signaling and even antihistamine properties. Nettle is a really wonderful herb, one of my favorites. And then you can also add in nutrients like turmeric. I really like turmeric tea. Fish oil, ginger, those are all just wonderful anti-inflammatories, help to support the immune system, all wonderful things as you head towards your ovulation. As far as foods, you may want to stick with lighter foods during the follicular phase, things like fish, chicken, the lighter meats, sauteed veggies, things that can help you get up and going. Okay, and then next up we have the ovulatory phase. That's a pretty short phase. It only lasts 1 or 2 days. And that's the LH surge happens and kicks off ovulation. The egg is released. The season that ovulation relates to most is summer. So think of that summer energy. Everyone's out having fun, getting together, having social gatherings, especially if you live in a wintry place. I do not at this point in my life, but I actually for most of my life have lived in wintry places. And I remember what that's like. The summer comes around and everybody's out doing everything before winter comes and you have to just kind of hide in your hidey hole for months at a time. So ovulatory phase of your cycle is where you're, of course, most fertile, most energetic, most creative, most social. It's a great time to put yourself out there in relationships and business and doing all the things. Movement-wise, it's a great time to do some higher intensity workouts. And remember that time is going to come and go awfully quick, just like it seems like summer does. Perfect as we're wrapping up the summer season as we speak here. Okay, next up we have the luteal phase, which occurs between ovulation and menstruation. Typically lasts between 10 to 16 days and correlates with the season of autumn. So kind of like autumn where things start to slow down. During that time, the egg has just been released. And after the egg is released, this is something I find to be so fascinating that our bodies actually do this every single month. The egg is released from the follicle. And that follicle that's been left behind in the ovary turns into the corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum actually is a transient endocrine gland. I'm having trouble with my words today. And what that means is that it's a temporary gland that starts producing progesterone. So we hear, I used to always just be taught that progesterone comes from your ovaries, which is true, but it's actually produced by what remains of that follicle after the egg is released, meaning you have a new corpus luteum every single month. Your body actually creates a new hormone-producing gland inside of the ovary every single month. Pretty incredible. You can see why I am all about honoring the things that your body does because it's amazing. I think it's pretty amazing. So during this time, your energy starts to slow down. You're going to turn more inward. It's a great time for that anyway. It's a great time for completing focused tasks, maybe things that you had planned during that super creative follicular time. It's a time to be more attentive to your own needs, to listen to your body's needs and even cravings. Movement-wise, you may want to start to slow down, do some yoga, some walking, some lighter workouts. As far as the seed cycling goes, you'll want to focus in now on sunflower and sesame seeds. Again, 1 or 2 tablespoons each day is great. Helps to support healthy progesterone levels. The sesame is rich in iron, calcium. You do need to crush sesame in order to really absorb it. So one good option is tahini, which you can use in sauces and salad dressings. Sunflower is rich in vitamin E. It helps to support healthy prostaglandin levels, which is what creates that inflammation that can contribute to PMS and even painful periods. So it can be supportive of that. Good sources for that include sun butter. It's you can use it as an alternative to peanut butter or almond butter or whatever you normally use. Also a great option just if you don't tolerate nuts, that's sun butter. You can make energy balls or smoothies or salads with those sunflower seeds. Other nutrients that can be supportive during that luteal phase include dandelion root tea, one of my favorites that really supports estrogen detox. Cruciferous veggies, broccoli sprouts also helps to detox excess hormones. Evening primrose oil is something I really like as well. About 500 milligrams a day, which can help, again, inhibit those inflammatory prostaglandins that can come up as you get closer to your period. As far as nutrients, you may also want to eat some heavier foods here. I really like to do some red meat during the luteal phase to help to kind of build up the iron stores in your body as you prepare to start your period. And then last up, we have the menstrual phase, which correlates, for obvious reasons, to the season of winter. I think we can all see where that correlation comes from. Typically lasts anywhere between 3 to 7 days, and that's the time in your cycle where your body releases the uterine lining, assuming you haven't gotten pregnant, in which case you wouldn't have a menstrual phase. And it's a time really for release in general. That's why oftentimes, well, also because of the drop in hormones, but it's that time for release where we may feel a need to cry. I actually, at the time I'm recording this episode, I'm on day 5 of my cycle, so I'm still in that bleeding phase a little bit, and I have had quite a weepy few days where I've just felt a need to cry, and I've kind of just been going with it, honoring that, because there's a beautiful release that happens with that. It's a wonderful time for rest, which I know is so hard for us at times. Reflection, slowing down, going inside, going internal. It's a time where you may want to spend more alone time and not be so sociable and not be so talkative with others. It is a time when your hormones are at their lowest. So your hormones dropping is what induces the menstruation to begin in the first place. But also with that drop in hormones comes lower energy and lower mood. So movement-wise, you might not feel like moving at all, right? Rest is absolutely an option during those days, especially if you have a lot of endo symptoms going on. If you're in pain, you're not feeling great, rest completely fine. If you're feeling up for a little bit of movement, maybe it's something like restorative yoga. Doing some meditation can be great during this time. Nutrition-wise, my best recommendation during menstruation is to really listen to what your body needs. Your digestive system may feel a little bit different during that time. You may just feel like you want or need different foods. So my best advice is just to listen to what your body needs. Simple foods can be a really good option. Maybe soups and broths can be great. Think nourishment, comfort. Think kind of like how you would eat if you're getting sick. That same kind of nourishment can be really good for during your menstrual phase as well. All right, so we've gotten through all the phases, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, the luteal phase, and finally the menstrual phase, your spring, your summer, your autumn, and your winter. And gone through all of the things that come up during those phases of your cycle, the things you may want to focus on or do during those times. Now, I wanted to make a few final notes before I sign off for today. And one of those is just kind of stating the elephant in the room here that you may not be able to just drop everything and completely change your life to revolve around your menstrual cycles. I get it, right? Even as I'm recording this episode and telling you all of this, I don't 100%, arrange my life around my menstrual cycle, but I do try to have awareness of it and kind of think about arranging the things that I can and focusing on that. What can I change? Because I can't change the whole world around me. You may not be able to change the company that you work for or your job during that time, but there are things that you can change. So think about what that might be for you. Can you change what your workouts and your movement looks like throughout the month? Can you organize a little bit what tasks you're doing at what time of the month? What about social plans? Can you arrange more of your social plans earlier in your cycle when you might feel more up to it? What about the nutrients that you're eating? That's something you have more control over. Can you change the nutrients that you're eating throughout the month? Maybe playing around with a little bit of that seed cycling. Allow yourself time to rest. Especially as you get into that menstrual phase. That's been a big project for myself, is allowing myself rest time during menstruation without feeling guilty about it. That's been definitely something that's been a learning curve for me and something I feel like I'm just continually working on over here, because it was just ingrained into me that you show up for stuff kind of no matter what. And I'm really learning that I feel so much better when I do allow myself some space for just that deep rest during menstruation. And when I do honor that and not just push myself through to do all the things, I feel so much better really throughout the entire cycle. So something to think about. Maybe even just start with one thing that you learned today. Maybe you just start with the workouts, your movement, for example, and start to change that through your cycle. Because you can always come back to this episode and just re-listen to it to add more to your routine later on, right? So just know that you don't have to change everything all at once. I just want to plant the seed of this in your mind and do with it what you will, do with it what you can. But I think for me, my biggest message that I want to get it across, and hopefully your biggest takeaway from today, is just the fact that we as women are cyclical beings, and that's okay. Us being cyclical is not something that needs to be controlled and harnessed and reined in. It's just the way that we are, and honoring that can be one of the most powerful gifts that we can give to our own bodies, to start to work with our own bodies rather than against them. Okay, my friend, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have the most wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. If you loved what you heard, be sure to share with a friend and subscribe so that you can keep coming back for more. If you are ready to take the next step towards getting to the root cause of your endo symptoms like endobelly, pain, fatigue, and so much more, you need to download my free ultimate guide to building your own endometriosis diet. You can find the link in the show notes or at www.endobellygirl.com. Until next time, my friend.